Hey, picture this. You're cruising in an EV, wind turbines spinning, a fighter jet streaking overhead. Feels like the future. But the real action isn't on the highway. It's in China's refineries and export rules. We rely on Chinese processing for the stuff that makes all this go: lithium, cobalt, nickel, graphite, and rare earths. Even when it's mined in Congo, Indonesia, or Australia, the concentrates flow to China to be turned into battery chemicals, anodes, and rare earth oxides. That's the choke point. China does most of the separation and refining, then turns rare earths into magnets and graphite into anodes. Magnets, cathodes, oxides, refined there, shipped everywhere. And the lever? Export permits and licensing. One policy tweak, one delayed permit, can strand containers of cathode mixes, graphite, or rare earth parts at Chinese ports. No inputs, no assembly. That's why a US factory can be humming on Monday and waiting by Friday. EVs, turbines, even defense gear, all depend on materials refined in China and cleared to leave. The supply looks global, but the gate is there. So, quick reality check. The USGS Draft 2025 list flags 54 critical minerals. The real choke point isn't the mines. It's Chinese refineries and magnet plants where those rocks become useful. From ore to concentrate, to oxide, to metal, to magnet. China controls most of the separation capacity and the midstream steps that turn raw inputs into parts. Think graphite and manganese, full or heavy reliance after processing. Add rare earths, and a short export pause can erase billions in US GDP and stall defense programs in days. Alright, let's break it down where it bites first. Batteries. Lithium, cobalt, nickel, and graphite don't just get mined. Most of them take a long detour through China for refining and those midstream steps, precursors, cathodes, and anodes, before they ever reach a US packline. Even when ores come from Australia, Chile, Indonesia, or the Congo, the midstream often runs through Chinese refineries. Brine and spodumene become lithium chemicals there. Nickel moves into precursors there. And most natural and synthetic graphite anodes are finished there. That's the choke point. China's facilities turn concentrates into usable battery materials at scale, then ship cathode and anode rolls to US packlines. US EVs alone now draw roughly 20% of global lithium demand, so midstream slowdowns hit fast. We're already seeing it. A billion-dollar EV battery project in Georgia paused in early 2025 as processed inputs got scarce and pricier. Tariffs, shortages, and permitting snags compound the hit, slowing lines and slipping targets, even for well-funded builds. Defense is where the stakes spike. Those guidance fins, actuators, and nav systems in jets and missiles, they rely on rare earth permanent magnets, NdFeB cores, often doped with dysprosium or terbium for heat resistance. The catch: most of the alloying, sintering, and magnetization happens in China. From ore to oxide to alloy to magnet, China dominates the middle steps. Think separation plants turning concentrates into oxides, then vacuum furnaces pressing and magnetizing NdFeB. Labels may read, "Made after Chinese processing," even when the rock started elsewhere. Beijing's tighter export regimes now gate magnet-related inputs, tooling, and know-how. One denied permit, and shipments stall. That can freeze deliveries for prime contractors, putting an estimated $1.6 billion in navigation hardware and roughly $4.5 billion in missile output at risk. Stockpiles buy weeks or months for top priority systems, but the bottleneck is refining and magnetization. We mine at places like Mountain Pass, yet much of that material still loops back to China for processing before it becomes a defense-grade magnet. Chips feel it too. Gallium for power devices and germanium for photonics are heavily refined in China. A break in those flows clips data center buildouts and AI hardware schedules. Industry scenarios put over $1 billion in capacity timing at risk. Outside magnets, risks vary. Platinum group metals from Russia and South Africa can swing auto costs, converters and catalysts up 10 to 20% in stress tests. Farm inputs depend on imported potash. Barite for energy drilling leans on Chinese supply. But the central choke remains China-based rare earth processing and magnets. Bottom line, permits and processing control the tap. Until non-Chinese refining and magnet lines scale from oxide to finished NdFeB, Di and Tb included, both defense cadence and industrial rollouts remain vulnerable to a single decision far from the factory floor. The real choke point is the midstream. Think a four-step conveyor. Mine to separation, to refining, to magnets and components. Step 1. Mining starts worldwide. Steps 2, 3, and 4? That's where China owns the line. Roughly 90% of separation happens in China, about 85% of refining, and well over 90% of magnet and component making, clustered in Chinese industrial hubs. If those hubs slow, everything behind them stacks up. Ores and intermediates from the Democratic Republic of Congo's cobalt and Indonesia's nickel typically flow into that Chinese midstream. get processed, and only then re-exported as oxides, salts, or finished components. New 2025 export and compliance rules add friction. China Touch Tech needs permits and traceability. No green light? Shipments stall at customs. Factories and defense programs wait. Stress tests show price needles spiking. Manganese and cathode materials jump first, while lead times stretch. A single midstream hiccup ripples across autos, batteries, and electronics within weeks. Building non-Chinese midstream capacity is doable, but takes years, not months. Permits, capex, talent, and offtake. Until then, delays and price spikes are the norm. It's a balance. Speed from China's entrenched midstream versus resilience from diversified build-out. Decision time. Reduce exposure to Chinese processing and export approvals. Diversify refining with allies. Build magnet lines. Ramp recycling. And stockpile oxides and metals. Zero SU, 36 months. Funded and coordinated. Choose resilience over reliance. From mine to magnet, China holds the midstream. Until alternative refining and magnet lines scale, U.S. industry moves at Beijing's pace.